Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Hello dear friends, welcome back to Spiritism and the Media here on Kardec Radio. And today and for the following 2 weeks I'd like to bring to us some texts from the book Our Daily Bread by the Spirit Emmanuel. It was channeled by Francisco Cândido Xavier or Chico Xavier. And the text that I would like to bring today is chapter 69. It is called Today. And in this lesson and in the following ones, we are going to see a little bit some examples that Emmanuel brings to us about the words and how we can use the words in our daily lives and the importance not only of using them, but also of giving them as an example to our brothers and sisters. So let's see what Emmanuel has to say to us here in this lesson called Today. So he starts with a passage from Paul. It is from the Hebrews chapter 3, number 13. And Paul says, "But encourage one another daily as long as it is called today, so that none of you may be hardened by sin's deceitfulness." And Emmanuel says, "The suggestion regarding daily reciprocal encouragement indicated by the Apostle Paul requires a great deal of reflection so that we do not allow a little then of certain doubts to be created. Let us emphasize what Paul places singular importance to time that is called today, pointing out the necessity of valuing these resources along with our activity throughout the day. Many believe that in order to give good advice to the brothers, it is necessary to communicate constantly, thus transforming themselves into obstinate debaters. It is important to recognize, however, that a warning constituted solely of words leaves a great emptiness after they are spoken." So let's pause a little bit here and see what Paul says here and what Emmanuel says here to us. So Emmanuel is saying that I think it's very important here when he says it is many things that is necessary to communicate constantly to the brothers and sisters, like when we want to give advice. And it's very common for us to see it happening more and more daily as we have more tools around us to reach others or to allow our words to reach the ones around us. It can be social media, for example, it can be books, radio, the TV, it can be the newspaper. There are so many ways for us to communicate today that it's very easy to reach to others around us. And it's very easy, as he's saying here, to try to give good advice to our brothers and sisters. And we usually think that the more we say, the better it's going to be to the one who is listening to us. So if I emphasize and if I tell the same lesson 1, 2, 3, 4 times, I may think that it's be the best way for the one that is listening to really receive that advice, receive the lesson, and put that into practice. But Emmanuel is saying here that many times those can be empty words or solely words without the other part of the lesson, that is the example. What we want when we give an advice, when we want to be useful to someone is also to give an example, because many times the thing that I'm saying, the thing that I'm trying to teach is not what I am practicing in my daily life. So imagine the same happened to us when we receive some advice, when we receive some teaching from someone. If we only see that lesson without seeing the person putting that into practice, how are we going to believe that it's good to us? As the spirits always tell us, let's watch Jesus. Jesus not only brought the word, but Jesus brought the example. Jesus put into practice all the teachings that he gave to us. So Jesus wasn't here giving empty words to us, giving beautiful words, beautiful lessons for us to listen to and for us to try to put them into practice by ourselves. He was here practicing that. He was here showing us that it was possible to live according to God's laws. It was possible to live according to his teachings. So the same applies to us. When we want to give good advice to anyone, we want to put that advice into practice ourselves. And that's what Emmanuel is telling here to us. And he goes on saying, as occurs in physical organizations, no spiritual edification will be constructed without foundation. But encourage one another represents a more important appeal than simply calling the one involved to verbal debates. Invitations and advice have more effectiveness when they are accompanied by the example of each one of us. All of those who live practicing the noble principles to which they devoted themselves in the world, who carefully fulfill the assumed duties and display goodness with sincerity, are leading the brothers and sisters in humanity on the uplifting path. It is for this kind of daily testimony that the converted of Damascus invited us. Only through constant practice of mind, of inner reform, will man free himself from fatal deceit. Do not become hardened in the pathway that the Lord has led you to track in favor of your redemption, involvement, and sanctification. Remember the importance of time that is called today. So it is very important here. One point that I think is very interesting for us to highlight is when he says about the verbal debates, because today you see that usually happening, especially when we go to social media. We see those debates, we see someone going and writing something, writing a post, and someone goes there and with another point of view and writes back and leaves a comment, and we see those arguments, many times people fighting online, those verbal debates that don't lead us to any place. And again, it is important for us to have good words, to have the words and to spread the words. Yeah, it is, but it's important to give the example as well, because many times it's useless for us to only insist in the word. We need to give the example as well. And usually the best way for us to learn is by seeing the example of others. The way that we saw and we still see Jesus' example is the way that we learn from him. So let's try to do that. All of us, it's important. And remember the importance of today, as Emmanuel is saying here, for us to apply the words today, not to leave it for tomorrow, not to leave it to any other time, but let's apply the teachings that we have today in our daily life so we can first transform ourselves, and then by transforming ourselves, we are also helping the society around us to be transformed as well. And as I usually do, I'd like to bring a passage from the book Happy Life, an uplifting message for us to finish here the show. So I'm going to open randomly here the book, and we have here lesson 143. Be a friend of truth, never using it as a weapon of destruction or offense. It is not so much what you say, but how you say it that produces good or bad results. Besides, yours may be not the real truth, but only a reflection of it. Even if it were the real truth, you have no right to brandish it for perturbing purposes. Before you assume the role of someone who corrects and teaches with the truth, put yourselves in the other person's shoes, and your conscience will guide you in relation to the best way to proceed and express yourself. I just forgot to tell that Happy Life is a book by Divaldo Franco and from the Spirit Joana de Angelis, and it's very connected to the lesson that we read today. So if you would like to read it again and to study it, it's the book Happy Life, lesson 143. Thank you so much for your company. May God bless all of us. See you next week.